We're different here. We don't just get up for another day. We rise. We don't just work. We endeavor. We're women and men for and with others. We have hope, we believe, and we celebrate. Why are we different?
So we can be the difference.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the EGFC. We are back for our final match of the night. The Marquette Golden Eagles going up against the Colorado Buffaloes, two teams at 4 and 5 that recently have had some history. Marquette played against Colorado back in week 7, and they won by a single point. And now Colorado looking for a rematch.
You know, that match definitely was something to show, and we've gone all night looking at very interesting matchups. However, seeing the monkey, that's one that I haven't seen all night. And I gotta tell you, I love the monkey. So we're gonna be able to see how this works more than anything. Donkey Kong is always one of the more interesting characters, I feel, and that's just because he doesn't have the best of everything, but he is good at what he does. And what he does is monkeying around, as you see, being able just to kind of pump that damage into the Squirtle, who has to really go into that range.
Slatty on the Pokemon Trainer. We've seen a little bit of Pokemon Trainer tonight. And Chico, this DK, has been pretty good so far this season. One of the more successful DKs in the EGF. Great tether cancel, though, from Slatty. And that is the downside of this character. That vertical recovery, very susceptible to spikes, and Slatty taking full advantage.
As much as I love the monkey, you said it best. That is one of the more down points. And I mean, Pokemon Trainer is able to get back from the stage from nearly everything. Ivysaur is going to be that pure counter against it. It's going to be harder for the Donkey Kong to even try, like, getting punished by yourself wanting to get onto that stage. It's the unfortunate part of the monkey.
Slatty with a big lead now. Lots of tether cancels that Chico can't really threaten here. Turnaround forward air from Chico to try and get Slatty to back off for the moment, but still, Chico really struggling to get much done here. Only 76 onto Slatty, and this Charizard is very threatening. Again, Charizard, one of those characters, although he's a big body, he's got a lot of quick options that are almost all kill moves. Even the side B there, able to help him get back to stage, but now the damage starting to really rack up. Chico looking for something. Armored through by the up B, and Slatty kicking off the day with a 3-stock.
Out of all the matches of today, this is the one that I was not expecting that exact outcome. Though I did feel the Charizard is able. We've seen it on that Charizard does so much work. It's the armor that comes with the recovery that just broke through Chico, and it just does not look very great. And you know, that may just be the unfortunate part of the monkey matchup. You're not going to be able to break through it, and that's why I said Donkey Kong is kind of a, you know, the character who has a lot of things, but not the best in anything.
You know, DK has a lot of thing. You know, he's got a lot of options. The problem is his disadvantage is just rough, and you know, you can do all you can to get around some of these spikes, but Ivysaur down air is massive at the end of the day, and you know, he wanted something, just, you know, went a little bit too far there, as you can see on that second stock. It is worth noting, though, between these two teams, when they last played, Slatty was not in the lineup, and when they got that upset, and you know, Slatty is one of these players that's a huge portion of the Colorado team. He's 4-2 on the season so far, and this Pokemon Trainer, it's been very, very good. Even last season, you know, taking off, you know, some big names from the EGF. He's been very successful, and you know, when we interviewed, when we interviewed Colorado last season, they said one of the big things, or towards the beginning of this season, they said one of the big things was that you see what you get is what you see out of Colorado. There's no real mix up, right? Slatty's only got the PT, AIV is the Ike, and it's just the bread and butter stuff. But they really felt like they've kind of adapted their game, and now there's a little bit more depth in the lineup, a little bit more creativity in the play styles. And Slatty, I think, is one of the biggest cases of that. This PT, it's just got so many options. And, it used to be that Slatty, his go-to was the Squirtle, and now it's the Ivysaur, and now it's the Charizard coming in clutch. But forget all the character matchups. We're getting a whole new thing here. It's the King K. Rool for Chico and the Roy for Slatty.
I definitely love these switch-ups, especially the Roy. However, it's going to see if you're going to be able to go up with Chico.
Well, if you're Colorado, I guess you take those because, I should say, yeah, no, I am right about this because Slatty right now, he's got the lead, and for Chico, yeah, that's an unfortunate way to start. But this King K. Rool, we don't see a lot of King K. Rools here in the EGF, and that's an uncharacteristic stock loss as well. So, honestly, just a strange start to this second game.
It's a button checks, folks. Promise you it's a button check. Or maybe not. But I do like the King K. Rool. It's one of the more interesting characters coming into this matchup, and definitely one that can pair up against the Roy, having that really good recovery. But Roy does not, and that's Slatty getting a little bit overcautious. It's one of the reasons why you don't see Roy tend to edge guard very often. And I mean, now Chico, a stock ahead, and with the stop! How do you get a comeback like that after... That was scripted. That was just scripted!
Well, I'm at a loss for words here because this game started off strange, but Chico, I mean, what a down air from him to catch Slatty, recognizing, hey, that up B pokes above the ledge there. If I get over here in time, this stock is over. It is forfeit, and Chico with a big response in game number 2. After a solid 3 stock from Slatty in that first game, that lead is now dissipated down to a point, and now he's given himself a second chance here on this last game, on game number 3.
I mean, maybe there should be a game number 3 after that. Didn't even feel like a round. Especially, but as we get this look to see what happened, so shot the cannon, still has, started to, they're still going. All right, that's just like a player defect moment. I don't even know what to truly call it, but hey, at least Chico gets the win without any strategy either. It's just more Slatty not having the best recovery and not really paying attention too often.
Yeah, I mean, again, just kind of a strange game where some trades came out, some buffered inputs there, I feel like is what happened to Slatty on that neutral air in particular. And again, we talked about how Roy does not have the greatest recovery, and Slatty, here he dips, a little bit too far, and yeah, you do get a little bit of horizontal, or you do get a little bit of width, I guess, in your recovery. But, not enough fade to get back to ledge, and Chico was just able to survive longer. Even on the Nair, too, right? The Nair trade was just kind of an awkward stock to take. So, Slatty, the Roy pick not working out so well. The King K. Rool, we'll have to see. I think the King K. Rool could be at least a slightly better answer for the Pokemon trainer if Slatty opts to go back to his tried and true. But again, it is kind of that, Pokemon trainer's got all of these options, and at the end of the day, King K. Rool is a big body, so he's going to take a lot of hits. It's just a matter of, can Chico survive at these high percents and give himself a chance. And in this case here in game 2, he did. In the first game, however, Slatty was all over it.
Yeah, you make a great point, though. There's a reason why we don't see King K. Rool played too often. It's not for me to figure out. That's more, I think, just a player opinion. Everybody likes what they like. But I definitely think that King K. Rool could be doing something. It's not what you're used to, and I think if you play a character that nobody is used to, you always have a chance. It takes those seconds, especially if you know what you're doing against it. But the Roy and Pokemon Trainer stuff that I highly expect, and I very much expect that Pokemon Trainer to return. It looked amazing, especially the usage of that Ivysaur looking to stop the opponents from coming back in when they were on Donkey Kong. You know, I see no reason why not to just come back onto a character that you knew you won with. And I mean, I guess they just really want to play Mystery Heroes. The only returning character is that King K. Rool.
Opting for the Ness here in game number 3, and Lylat making its first appearance of the day. A stage we don't see all that often, but it is an interesting one to say the least. Fun to play around these angles around the ledge, and also the triplats, all of them very low, so you might be able to get some up smashes off, especially if you are Chico with the range that you have. But that being said, Slatty taking early advantages. Wants the spike, can't find it. He'll be able to air dodge back to stage though, and still able to weave around this big crocodile.
I mean, you said it best. King K. Rool is one giant hitbox, and that's unfortunate. You know, I think this is more of belly, you know, because of the belly and such. But more than anything, King K. Rool takes a second to do anything. Slatty is going to be able to just walk into you and, as shown, combo you to oblivion, and that's really going to be the pressure, is keeping up with that speed and the versatility that comes with the Nest.
Even getting the drag down forward air into another grab, just the combo keeps going, and Slatty's already got Chico to death as he finds the forward smash off the get up from ledge there, reading that option well, and all of a sudden Slatty on the verge of another 3-stock with the forward air will do it for Chico. 1 stock off the board, but still a lot of work to be done on the side of the Golden Eagles if they're going to find a way to take this first set. Slatty continuing to press here. Numerous forward airs, can't find that up B as well, and just nowhere to run if you're Chico. The armor not even being of much help.
Having to be extremely careful though. Chico, just like in an inch, managed to survive that last attack, but at 114 and having to recover, it's just barely enough. But even still, Slatty is looking to hit you with the PK Thunder, and you didn't respect it. You didn't respect it enough.
I'm in shock. I mean, even Chico here, you know, when you see that up B come out, you think, okay, he's vulnerable. If I hit him before this happens, I've got a chance. And Chico sees it, right? The back air doesn't connect. He thinks, okay, this is my chance to kill him. He tries the forward smash, and he's just too slow. I'm not even sure if it would have connected if he got it off in the first place, but either way, Slatty able to take game 3. So after an awkward game number 2, he bounces back and gives the Buffaloes the lead.
Setting it up, though we did have that little bit of a switch, but we are looking to see Slatty helping the side of Colorado look a little bit more breezy, as I definitely feel. Still though, a lot of more matches, hopefully less confusing to go up in the future. Don't zoom in on this. No, not the Chico slap. Look at that. Hole in one.
That's I mean, it's just well read by Slatty. A home run right there for him. I mean, if it's just that easy, you know, why not? But either way, Chico, again, he was going to be fighting an uphill battle. You're seeing the characters that he was going up against, and the big body characters. If there's one thing they do well in this game, is that they find ways to kind of take stocks and mitigate the damage. But the problem is, you are going to be playing at such high percents for so long, and you're seeing here, even the tempting stuff, the up B, it's typically used as a bait, and even there, not able to land. I wonder, I forget how the property works of it, but the counter maybe could have worked in that scenario if you're thinking about it. But it's all speculation at that point. Either way, Chico, he falls to 3-6 on the season for Marquette, and Slatty goes to 5-2. And again, this was more or less expected. Chico, he's had his struggles, but the big body characters, they can get some work done. But when you're going up against Roy, PT, Nest, it's just an uphill battle from the start screen.
Like an episode of Tom and Jerry. You never see the mouse truly lose. It's always that cat. However, now with characters that are a little bit more thin, a little bit more quick, we're going to be seeing the Samus versus the Ness matchup. Definitely something I'm very interested to, almost just because of how much they're going to be able to spam out each other. But with Spencer looking to kind of be more on the offensive, how does Zoro try to, mess around with this?
Zerosion on this Samus has been very good so far this year. Colorado, when we interviewed them, they said if there's one player that they think is kind of a hidden boss on this team, it's been Zerosion. He's been tasked with a lot, and he has looked good so far, but Spencer has been on a tear this year on this Nest. 5-1 so far. He has been one of the go-to players on this Marquette roster. That being said, finds himself at an early deficit here. Only 43 make that 55 onto Zerosion, and 122 on Spencer means he's kind of working on borrowed time this stock, but he's trying to find the opening. The air dodge back to stage, and a connection error has occurred. So with that, we'll be cutting to a short break to get those results. We'll go into some speculation about it. Here's another replay. This is an interesting scenario for that ledge trump, but unfortunately, this is what happens sometimes. This is the downside of an online format. We will get back to you on the rulings of this, because it was early in the match. I mean, you're still within the first minute of the game, and they are still going to play it out, it looks like. So we will just get those results to you when we hear otherwise.
My heart, that hurts me. Just the moment, solely from that. And I mean, they're probably still punching each other out, seeing who can bring it in, so it's going to be a moment. Still, though, if we get a moment to just think about what happened last, not technically last round, but from what we saw, what was highly interesting was just the format of how they were going, and a lot of spending time from the Samus on placing the mines, either trying to force the E, and then you get to kind of run in, punch the opponent, but also you waste down a lot of the Nest utilities, and that's something that I'm definitely looking for. So as we get a moment to see how they're just clashing together, I'm pretty sure they're having an intense match right now.
I mean, these two teams, they are very, very close. I mean, you look at the standings between these two. Marquette and Colorado, both 4-5. Round differential, relatively even. Point differential, both are kind of hanging around that even marker of 0. And both teams are in that central division. So they are highly contesting those playoff spots with, teams like DePaul, like Hawaii, like the newcomers of, Sacramento State, Weber, and Montana. It is an interesting dynamic when you look at the broad scope of things and how even these two teams were. Now, again, the last time these two teams played was week 7. It was the week before the Thanksgiving break, and it was very back and forth. And actually, when you look at the individual matchups, Zerosion was one of the players who actually ended up losing his set last time, and that kind of opened the door for Marquette. Zerosian is 1-4 on the season overall, but he's often going up against some of the toughest players, you know, the Yosifus and so on and so forth. We are getting word that Spencer, for the side of Marquette, won that match. We'll be getting info on the stock count to see how many points that will earn for Marquette. It is a 2 stock we are hearing now for the side of Marquette. So points on the board for Spencer. And this is a big, moment for Marquette. Again, Spencer, one of the big hitters on this Golden Eagles roster. And you were talking about the dynamics of this matchup in particular, how you have to deal with all these projectiles. But I think part of what you saw from Zerosian was those mines. It's kind of where Ness wants to be, right? You got to be in front of your opponent to hit them. And if you're just placing that mine right in front of you and backing off and continuing to trail away, it makes getting in on you a little bit more difficult. That being said, Spencer apparently having minimal trouble doing so as he was able to take that first game.
Absolutely true. Now, though, we're going to be able to see its second map, but just consider this your first round, guys. Just go hard. Try to beat each other up as you did before. And it seems that Zoro is incredibly angry from not being able to get their matches going and looking to do as much damage. Not really trying to spam as much as before.
I was slightly off before. Zerosian did not play. Yes, he did not play in that match against Marquette the last time these two teams met back in week 7, but he has nonetheless been tasked with a lot of these, anchors when he has played. Spencer, again, at an early kind of deficit here, 133% on him, and Zerosian only 53. The uppy out of shield not going to do enough, and slowly starting to work his way back in on this first stock is Spencer. Down smash comes through. Zerosian very far away. Love the attempt at the forward air to try and clean up that stock, but he ends up getting the grab. The back throw not going to do it quite yet either. Neutral B threatening, and Zerosian stalling out for such a long period of time and still able to make it back to stage.
It's almost impressive how dedicated Spencer is to attempting the edge guard rather than just looking to control just the entirety flow of when Spencer is able to go back onto stage. Though I'm not fully against it. What I am against is the fact that it's very much predictable. Spencer's almost trapping and trying to heal as much as possible, as you can see. Though it is a double-edged sword, Spencer's not really getting in as much damage as they want. More just trying to heal when it may be more important to finish off your opponent and get that stock.
That forward tilt connecting, but that neutral B also gonna buy Spencer a chance here. Has to find his way back to stage, avoids that side B, but that forward air should do it. Spencer dies at 177%, and Zerosian not too far behind at 144. Trying to find some dash attacks, trying to find any sort of extra credit here, but Spencer's gotta be, Zerosian's gotta be careful. Again, he's healing a lot off of some of these projectiles. But now, a couple of mix-ups on the full charge or the half charge are throwing Spencer off, and now Spencer's at 87%.
A lot of this attention up from Spencer is being put on solely to heal, and I get the idea, but you have to respect how much Zoro is sort of controlling what Spencer does. The moment that Spencer wants to start walking forward, you place a mine, you trap them down, and even though this stock has been taken, Spencer's at 100. We saw what happened when they were at 150 or 170 roughly, and it's not going to look any better, especially if they are just too focused on healing due to the, absorption.
133% again on Spencer, looking very similar to the first stock, but Zerosian should be able to make it back to stage, does find a way to weave around that down air. Jabs come through, and Spencer's off stage once again, and this is where he spent most of this game because Zerosian has just done such a good job of keeping him to the corner, gets the grab into the up throw, and that is another stock off the board.
I mean, of all characters, Ness is one of the characters who really just want to force on the edge. Force them to just not do anything. And I mean, this is one of those beautiful moments, even countering out from the edge guard. Girl may be low on health, but is not out of options, especially when Spencer is spending a lot of time looking to try to use their abilities to force them out. And Yozora only does it at close range when they 100% know they are going to hit.
Gotta play very carefully here. Spencer gets the forward throw off stage, but the quick snap to ledge there. But this yo-yo, he's able to fight through with the up B again. The spacing of Zerosian right now, very, very strong. And Spencer just does not have a lot of clean or easy answers. And Zerosian making work for every bit of space, but that back air well spaced by Spencer to make this a last stock scenario.
I definitely agree, but at such a high percentage, is it even worth it? Well, obviously, yes, it was a rhetorical question, but moreover, Spencer has to be incredibly careful, and that's just more of being stuck on this edge, definitely feeling that you want to spend more of your time in the middle, play on the high ground, you know, work off of your opponent's weakness. Don't get hit with the recovery.
Great air dodge there from Spencer to find his way back to center stage here. Has to be very careful. Wants the follow-up with that forward smash. Zerosian dip too low! No! And that's going to be it! Spencer's going to take the set, get the extra point on the board, and just like that, things are back to even.
Honestly, I don't really know what to say other than that is such an unfortunate moment. Because when you're in that scenario, you and your opponent had fallen off the stage, Ness will always win that fight. And that's solely just because, obviously, very floaty character, having the PK Thunder up, and Zoro just unable to make it to the stage. That's just a bit of mismanagement. And now, at least Colorado, they're going to be not really on the back foot, but I definitely feel not living up to the storyline that they were trying to give themselves. You know, one of the players that they said was going to be looking strong, looking like a boss. Unfortunately, the music was not played, and honestly, just Spencer felt like they were able to counter it out very, not easily, but in the end, does bring that title.
I think there's something to be said about Spencer's survivability. The fact that he was able to live to such high percents meant that he could get a lot of chip damage. And I know he was on the back foot for most of this game. He spent most of this game off stage trying to find a way back on, but he was able to, find those few openings. Even here, finds the back air, beating out the dash attack. That's a very fast and damaging move. That Samus dash attack does a lot of knockback. So for him to find the sweet spot of that back air is massive, and it gave him, these times that he's able to make it back to stage. Even on this last stock at 132, right? You would think at 132 you're working on borrowed time, but he's able to, get 40-ish% before Zerosian ends up SDing. And that's worth a lot, especially, down the line in a series, to give yourself a chance in those last stock scenarios, even in the first couple portions of that game, right? He's at 130 early in that game, in game 1 and in game 2, and then he gets Zerosian to 144 by the time he loses his first stock. Survivability, a huge portion of Spencer's game.
Definitely right on that. However, now the line changes, especially with how they're moving forward. They're even on point, so we're back onto that first match scenario to see what they try to do to change things up, and I think that's going to be highly important because these teams are still relatively even. I think that's the point that we, drill into our heads like a nail into a coffin, but it's honestly, I think, one of the more brighter points. And still, though, I'm trying to think of something feels off. I don't know about you, Soy, but there is something about these two teams that does not feel exactly right, and maybe it's because they have a Jigglypuff player going up against an Ike, one who deals a lot of damage and doesn't have the debatably best recovery, against one who has a really good recovery called Floating, and, well, is floaty.
AIV on the Ike. AIV, the captain of this Colorado team. He has been very good both last season and this season. Tiny on this Jigglypuff. He's had his struggles this year, and this matchup is not going to be any easier because just the amount of space and damage this Ike can do, it is so difficult for Jigglypuff to weave in and out. But when they get in, you're starting to see what they can do. Quick 43 onto AIV. The problem is that sword, it just covers so much space. That's going to be the challenge of this matchup.
Definitely agree. Wanting to just play more onto the edge, try to pressure out AIV. You do have the recovery, so that's the best part that you're looking for, but you're not really going to get too much done when one close combat encounter can mean death just like that. Ike is very much going to win in these mid-to-range scenarios, and I think you have to kind of change up the way that you look to play that Jigglypuff.
Up air traded, and AIV continuing to attack here. 80% already on Tiny on his second stock. Only 57 for AIV, still on his first, and looking for any kind of opening here. The armor through of that up B, actually kind of saving AIV for the moment. Tiny looking to try and find an opening here, but he cannot do so. Has to kind of back away. AIV can just kind of swing away and hope he finds something, as Tiny ends up losing his stock to just the tipper of that forward air.
You know, giving a bit of similarity to the melee genre of Smash, I still feel that rest is going to be that ability that is your best way to confirm, unless you're consistently forcing Ike off the stage or landing a rest to be able to smash. It's incredibly hard just with kind of your base moves, especially when you're such an easy character to fling into the stratosphere. We're just seeing AIV looking to do that to great degrees, and Tiny having issues at least adapting against it, but able to get here does look like a shining point. However, you lost 2 stocks in the meanwhile.
He's able to take that first stock, but like you said, he's already, you know, at a very high percent on his last stock. Puff, one of the lightest characters in the game. They do die a whole lot earlier than 90% of the cast, but they also do a lot of shield pressure with moves like Pound, nearly getting halfway through AIV's shield. That up tilt, though, gonna send Tiny upward. Tiny looking for any kind of opening here as he's trapped along this ledge. He is able to, you know, force AIV back, just kind of baiting and waiting. And there's the blast from Tiny, but is it fast enough? Can he get out? Yes, he can. Tiny has bought himself a second chance here in this match.
That's what I'm talking about. The rest is so good, but it's too late. As we see the Ike get that counter blink in and shut it down. Feel going into the next match, the second round is definitely going to feel very different, as Tiny is going to, I think Tiny very much found that adaptation and did very well at the end, especially with that rest. I think the Ike will get probably get a little bit too comfortable going up against this matchup, especially just since Jigglypuff can always feel like a really easy character to hit. May not be, you know, I think that's going player to player, but it is a very easy character to hit.
I mean, and a very easy character to kill because they are so light. I mean, yes, Tiny is at, you know, what, 80-ish% when he loses that last stock, but you know, it's just time and time again. I feel like one of the key things here for AIV is just patience, right? You outrange this character. It's tough for Jigglypuff to get in the first place. You know, the tipper of that dash attack actually ended up getting that second stock. But the point is, you know, they have to come to you, and you have all the tools you need to you know, make this matchup easy, right? Like the Ike game plan, if you just nair into anything, it's going to kill eventually on this character, and it's going to actually kill a lot quicker. So it's up to Tiny to have that adaptation to get in the first place, and AIV just made sure that Tiny kind of ran out of time in that first game.
Man, now when it looks like we're going in, and that rest is incredibly, I would say incredibly difficult to time perfectly, solely just due to the incredibly small hitbox. You basically have to be inside your opponent, though being right next to them seems to... Now, Jigglypuff was inside. I saw the leg. Either way, it's a very nice moment. Tiny very much putting on a very interesting show, and I can't wait to see how that second round will work out. Having more than enough time to play up against the Ike, I feel it's not really going to be the same.
We'll have to see here. AIV able to take game number 1. Game number 2 here on Town and City. So you have those platforms to possibly play around, but AIV can do a pretty good job of covering them, and these are the quick combos from AIV. That nair just really goes into imagination. Up air, forward air, back air, whichever one you feel like in the moment is right, it can probably connect to it, and the spike coming through on that up B doing a lot more damage too. So Tiny off to a big early deficit, but this is a huge opportunity. Chance at an edge guard and the quick recovery from AIV.
Tiny's main goal is to just force AIV off the stage. No, not again. No, not again. No! Not again!
Tragedy strikes once again in this set. We will let them play it out as it was, again, very early in this second match. Now, if you look at these two teams again, it's hard not to it's hard not to be able to see. But AIV again, the matchup I think is in general in his favor, but Tiny he has his one or two windows, and if he finds them, like you saw in that second stock, he can do some damage. Tiny is actually a player that we didn't get to see the last time these two teams played, and has really had his struggles this season. You know, we've seen him play Jigglypuff, we've seen him play Isabelle, but he's 0-4 on the year. Actually, I believe 0-5, but still, you know, when he is tasked with these scenarios, he does a very good job of just making you know, the game very difficult for his opponent. And against AIV, who's 5-3 this season, you know, his hands are full. It's a very tough spot for him to be in.
Very much agree. You know, using my mind of telepathy, I can already see how that fight's going. It's already at 2 stocks to 1. Jigglypuff is winning. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Either way, I definitely feel this matchup is still relatively interesting. And, you know, personally for me, this is the biggest coincidence that I've ever seen, because I have a friend named Tiny who plays Jigglypuff, and I thought that was them for a second.
Do they go to Marquette? I don't know.
No, they don't. I thought this was one big lie to me for a second. I sent them a message, so like, that's not me. And I played the low Jigglypuff. So, hey, I guess you get a little bit of favoritism for me, Tiny, if you're watching the broadcast afterwards.
Well, we'll have to see how this one goes. Again, if AIV wins wins this game, they win the set, they get the bonus points, and they continue to push Colorado into the lead. If Tiny wins, we will go to a game 3 between these two. But once again, through the first 2.5 sets here, it's still a very close match between these two. Only really, you know, a point here or there. You hear the sounds of the game ending. We'll be waiting to hear those results. Looks like it was a 1-stock victory for AIV. So Colorado getting the points there, ending that set in particular. So now they find themselves in a 4-point lead. And that's interesting to me, right? We were talking about how difficult this matchup could be, and yet it only comes down to a 4-point victory, which is, by the way, the minimum amount of points you can win by. That's you can win up to 4 or 8 points. That's kind of the threshold that you're working with. And right now, 4 being the low end in what seems like a very difficult matchup, I feel like Marquette, at least going forward, you got to feel like that's a not quite a victory, but at least, you know, you stopped the bleeding.
Absolutely agree. And I mean, with the score lines being so close, you know, I'm really bad at math, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I almost failed pre-calc in my senior year. So, is there a chance for this comeback, or can Colorado basically like free sunset swimming?
It is still anyone's game. That is for certain. I believe with 2 sets still remaining, it does, however, put the pressure on Marquette here, because if you do the math, if Colorado wins this set by anything more than the bare minimum, it is a Colorado victory. Marquette, they must win this upcoming set, in order to have a chance at getting the win this week. And once again, these two teams going back and forth, very even. And Colorado too, this is one of those teams, the storyline so far, last season, they were the dark horse, right? Overshadowed by, the big 3 teams that were just rolling through, it felt like everybody. But Colorado in that midst had a subtly good season, only 3 losses throughout the entirety of the regular season. And then they were in the Independent Conference Championship round going up against DePaul. Now they find themselves, Colorado, even to go even farther than that, they were in the national semifinals. They just could not get it done against DePaul once again. Now they find themselves this season at 4-5, a chance of dropping to 4-6 here if they end up losing, the next 2 sets to Marquette. And all of a sudden, from there, the schedule doesn't get a lot easier. You still have a lot of conference games remaining. And this Central Conference, it is stacked with playoff potential. You look at Hawaii, you look at DePaul again, you look at Marquette even was on the cusp of being a playoff team. Colorado still has to play the newcomers, and from what we've seen, they are very dangerous. Weber State, along with Sacramento State, who knows what those teams could bring to the table as we get ready for set number 4 here. PT going up against the Terry.
We got to see a bit of Terry, in one of the earlier matches, and honestly, it is very, not impressive, but it's amazing to see how this is going to work, especially going up against Kwas. You got to be a little bit more cautious, because that Terry, the moment they get close in, it can almost feel oppressive, and that's why I'm definitely loving the Ivysaur choice, being able to just zone it out, even when it comes to this close range.
Kwas, one of the big names of this Marquette roster. This Pokemon trainer has been very good this season. Carlish, this is actually their first appearance, I believe, on stream in the EGF. So this Terry, a lot of pressure on them to perform here, and they are able to take that first stock off the board.
Look at this, we're seeing just the damage go out. It's just what Terry's really good at, confirming these kills, but we may see a lot more guarding when it comes down to just how that Charizard really wants to be playing. And I mean, poor Soul not even gonna get back on!
Oh my goodness, Carlish with the spike onto Charizard. That is not an easy spike. The Uppy's got armor. He's got to get that spike out before the Uppy even starts. And all of a sudden, it is a 3-1 lead for Carlish. He's at 176, and this Charizard's even in danger. But that here comes through, taking Go off the board and taking a stock as well.
It's just the combo. I mean, gotta be really careful when going up against Terry. I think, the more passive and reserve Ivysaur is what looks great, but I definitely respect the Squirtle combos, the setup, and then forcing them off. That's definitely one that I love to see.
Kwas has to be careful here. He's along this ledge, ends up switching to Charizard. Go meter is on now for Carlish. Do they have a way back to stage? They end up eating a neutral B. Trading with the forward tilt of Charizard will mean the stock goes towards Kwas here, but he is at 107 as both these players on their last stocks. That up smash nearly killing, and he has got to be so careful. Can't afford the dangerous landing. The down B nearly finding the stock as well. Kwas now in the corner. How does he get out? It's around the dash attack, but the down B again connecting, sending him the wrong way though, at up 182. Back to the corner once more. Back here to get back on stage. Looking to catch this Terry's landing with a forward tilt, but he cannot do so. looking for the up smash is Carlish, but no dice. The forward smash comes up from Kawas, and it's a whiff. Jumping over top of the dash attack, Carlish trying to find the heavy hits. The dash attack connects, and that will be the game. Carlish takes game 1.
Local Lizard gets beat down by Southern Man in a hat. That's the fan fiction that I imagine this as. Either way, definitely gotta give props. Bringing that stock to stock is not easy in any sense. And it was more of just Kawas trying to figure out what do they do against the Terry. A lot of their engagements, when not onto the Ivysaur, were definitely taken with hesitance rather than with confidence. And I think that's what Carlish was able to benefit off of, and especially one of these moments, just waiting for their opponent to get onto the stage and then immediately punishing when that armor is gone. It's kind of a repeated thing that Terry players do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Carlish, great patience too along the ledge, and then the mix-up too, right? The switch of pace. He's been patient all through that first stock, second stock here, immediately goes down for that down air, just rushes off stage. And again, Terry, another character that you don't really think of as a big kind of edge guarding type because, well, they don't have a lot of edge guarding tools, but they do have a spike move, and it's before Carlish can even before Kawas can even react to it. So, game number 2 here. Remember, if Marquette have any chance at this game, they either need to take a win here in this set in particular, or they have to mitigate Carlish to just a 1-stock victory here in this particular game. Small Battlefield is the stage, and so far, things are even.
I mean, it is relatively just seeing how Kawas is looking. And this is what I like about the Ivysaur. You may have a tiny bit more range, but I feel you have a lot more versatility going up against the opponent rather than that Charizard who is a little bit heavier, or the Squirtle who may not be able to do as much damage comparably. But that swap was essential before they lost the stock.
Huge swap, like you said. Kawas now on the Charizard. His Charizard's been very good so far today, but the Squirtle and Ivysaur have really been shut down. And speaking of being shut down, so is that stock from Charizard. The up smash coming through from Carlish.
Just having to play carefully, or at least a Terry. Though getting that reset is going to be oh, what an unfortunate miss. But definitely, this is more on Carlish trying to stay alive for as much as possible. Unfortunately, that's why the Ivysaur just works. I mean, we've seen it throughout the entire series of just how many players prefer this Ivysaur and just how much it can get done.
Kawas slowly starting to chip away at Carlish here early in stock number 2, shutting down a lot of the approach options with that Razor Leaf. And again, Carlish just really doesn't have a clean answer to Razor Leaf. They can try and side beat through, but there's nowhere to go. That's a 0 to death from Kawas.
Is it truly a 0 to death when they're at 57? I'd say yes. As we see, Kawas now finally getting this understanding. Carlish no longer rewarded for this more passive and reactive playstyle. May need to go on to the aggressive and take the initiative, especially when their opponent is looking to burst you down as fast as possible and is even hesitating at points solely to find you off guard.
Kawas back to his corner to throw Razor Leafs, but Carlish able to force him off stage. Again, looking for those up smashes. Can't find them. Power Dunk comes through, but does not find its mark. Now Kawas trying to play very carefully here. Ends up recovering high, gets the spike, and then the up B. This is a bad spot for Carlish. Doesn't have his jump. He used his up B early. The up smash doesn't come through. The back air comes through from Kawas instead, and it's another up air, and it's a 2-stock response from Kawas.
I mean, if there's any way to keep this close, that's one of the favorite points, especially because last round was stock per stock. So now when you kind of do with the 2 stocks, you make this hard to kind of predict, especially with these adaptations. I mean, Kawas did an amazing job after losing that first stock, saying, hey, let's calm down, let's take a second, and let's just play the Ivysaur. And look how well it works. Definitely also enjoyed the fact that of just using the Pokemon as a pure swapping opportunity. I feel that's a little bit No, that's not underrated. People love it. But, I mean, that's what happens when you get a little too aggressive and you're not that passive. That shield could have lasted for a couple more seconds, but you and your opponent try to go out at the same time. Unfortunately, one can punch you much faster.
Here's another look at that. Both shielding, and then the up smash. Yeah, just a little bit faster on the trigger there was Karlish on that first stock. But that being said, Chaos, this second stock, I don't think... Okay, it was not a... No, it was a 0 to death here. He's at 57 when he takes this first stock. And then he's at 57.5, I think, when he takes stock number 2 off of Karlish. But this is really when things started to turn around. He finds that up air, and Terry in the air... I mean, he's got some options, but they're not all that great. So Kawas, credit where credit's due, once he got Karlish into the air, there was nowhere for him to go, and he was able to continue that juggle, and that up air is just so strong.
Man, just got a little bit of a beautiful moment. I mean, people with allergies are probably, like, screaming in their boots, "Oh, pollen!" But for me, definitely feel that's a very bright moment. Now, when I go outside tomorrow, I'm collecting some flowers. But now, this is the fight. No! No!
Well, okay, I think we'll get a reset on this one because it was at literally the very start of the match. So I think we can at least, get... That is right. We can't stop the players from playing out this match, which we'll have to see. It was literally as the match started, which is very unfortunate. But again, this is these are the things we have to work around with the online format, and that's just how it is sometimes.
I don't want to be I don't want to pay for Nintendo Online anymore. This was gonna be the match of the century. They were looking. Look at that frowny face. That's my heart.
I agree. Around the Terry and the
It means anything.
That is unfortunate. So we'll get those results, I believe, unless the players have opted to, not play this one out, but I doubt it. I assume they're just getting right into it, so we will wait and see. This does, however, remind me to kind of promote coming up later this season. It is expected that the EGF is to hold a LAN at some point in time. Now, not sure 100% how that will work. Details are still, as far as I'm aware, being worked out. But, at least for the MAC conference, that was the conference that they are trying to hold it for specifically because they can hold it in succession with the other athletic events at that time, which will be awesome. And, I mean, the last time, when was the last time the EGF held a LAN? I don't think it's actually ever held a LAN before because season 1 was during COVID. So teams were, had to go through those national brackets online. And so we'll get further details on that. There is also a chance of a LAN for the national bracket. But again, who knows? With COVID being the way it is all speculation. We'll have to see how that all pans out. Meanwhile, focusing back onto this set, Colorado versus Marquette. Colorado's got the lead, but if Marquette win this match in particular, things are going to be relatively even once again, and it feels like once again all of the stakes will ride on this last this last match. You hear the sound of the bell, that means that is the end of the match. Looking to see who got the victory there. It is Kawas getting the victory for the side of Marquette. We'll have to see how many stocks apart that was, but essentially that means it all comes down to this for the side, or for both teams in particular. 2 stock victory for Chaos is the news that we are hearing. And now, well, it's once again dead even, and we'll have to see who these teams opt to send in for their final matches. This is it's a nail biter. There's a barn burner. Whatever other comparison you want to say, these are 2 teams that they have just got each other's number. It is punch for punch. The second you think someone's got an advantage, all of a sudden it is turned on its head. And I can't wait to see how it finishes. I mean, you've got a couple different players for both teams who could go in, so you could speculate, but it's such a tough call both ways. It really is.
Yeah, I definitely agree, though. I do want to backtrack a little because that land sounds interesting. I'm just going to put my recommendation of a place you should do it, Philly. Why? I live there. End of story. Either way, because that's the ping somebody's going to receive tonight. This next match is basically going to be the one for all. It's either one side completely destroying the other side, or we go to that third map and these players continue to go hard. For a last game of tonight, I've got to say they're putting on a show for all of us.
They really are. I mean, back and forth they've gone here, and now you're seeing, once again, just a 1-point spread between these two. These are 2 teams that, again, they were on the verge of playoff. Colorado was top 4 last season, and Marquette, they missed the playoffs last year by a game. It was a tiebreaker differential that we've mentioned in the past that actually put them, out of the playoff race. And so all of a sudden, this team that has kind of revitalized, they've gotten some new players like, Chico that we saw earlier today is a new face to the team. Tiny, I believe is one of the kind of newer players. Even Chaos, has stepped up in a huge way. So we'll have to see who goes in. Dwyzar is in for the side of Marquette, and on the other side, it is a heavy hitter to say the least. The brand new face of Colorado, Ian, I believe, going in on the side of the Buffaloes. I'm hearing word that it is a Dwyzar versus N, or how you pronounce those names. So my apologies for that. But Yoshi versus Robin to cap off the night. Winner of this set wins the match.
Definitely. Why you think EN sounds like EN? You're absolutely crazy, because look at that. That's a Robin player if I've ever seen one. Looking as though Yoshi is also an interesting pick. It's only because you're going to be able to just be floaty, but you're not comparable to that Kirby, I would say. I think your biggest problem is breaking through this big choke that is called zoning.
Right now, Dwyzar is having some struggles getting in on Ian, as the snipe of the sword actually catching Dwyzar, and now nearly a full stock differential here. Dwyzar dipping real low for that edge guard and nearly finding it, but now the turnaround here from N. Now a chance, but he gets away for the moment. The Nair's coming through, and the management of these spells very clean into the up smash, and that's the stuff off the board. That's the Robin Classic.
I mean, N is doing an amazing job of just not only just this kind of somewhat resource management, but of using everything to its finest ability. If it gets low, they don't care. But look at that, that's nearly another stock taken out. Just luckily, Sakurai takes pity on the Yoshi and saved. But N is having full control of the speed of the fight.
Really is, and charging up that neutral beat as well. A lot of rock kill options on the board. Burns that one early. The back air doesn't quite connect. Has the book as a projectile, but I believe he lost it thanks to the egg throw from Dwyzar. But now, the side B, and that will be game 1. And with a 3-stock victory.
Soy. Out of all the odds, this was not the one I thought, you know? I flipped the coin for this. Coins only have two sides, and this was the third option. I mean, you gotta give credit where credit is due, and does such an amazing job of setups, and especially making sure that all their attacks combo into the magical abilities. I think that's just one of the more brighter points, especially like this type of moment, making sure to throw sword. Sometimes I forget that's an ability, like a thing you can do.
The management too, right? You get the sword, the books. When they're all used up, you can, in theory, catch them and use them as projectiles, but you've only got a small window to do so, and you don't think of them as having a huge amount of knockback. But Dewizar was just, caught in the corner there, nowhere to run to. And then the classic setups, those side Bs can chain together. It takes a little bit of practice to make sure you get those angles right to be able to follow up on them, but it follows through to an easy up smash every time. And you see N is very practiced on this character, and if there's one player that you don't want to fight on Colorado in this type of scenario, it's N. He is 7-0 on the season so far. He actually won in week 6 against MIA, the MVP of Mississippi State from that national championship run. This is a scary, scary player to go up against. So this is the tallest task, I think, that Dewizar has had to go up against. And Dewizar has actually, on this Yoshi, been very good himself this year. 5-2 so far. And he has had, the task of being this anchor, going up against a lot of the top players from a lot of these other teams. And so if there were one guy on Marquette to be able to combat this, to combat the anchor, it would be Dewizar. But right now, N looks like he's in control of this match.
I absolutely agree. Though pronunciations, that's not what you get paid for. That's my saying, at least. This is a big uphill to now try to break through. That was with 3 stocks. If it was through 1 stock difference, I really wouldn't have seen that as an issue. But that was a 3-stock Soy. And I think that means something, especially as Roy. When you're Yoshi, you're spending most of your time in the air, bringing people, throwing your children. But now you have to change up your style, and you don't have much time to try to breathe and, calm yourself down.
I'm sorry, that line caught me off guard. But listen, I do agree that Dewizar has it's very difficult for him to get in, and which is why I was wondering if this was going to happen. A character swap on the side of Marquette. They're bringing out the Dark Pit, and I like this a whole lot more. You've got that down B to try and act as a reflector and as a type of shield for if N gets too close. But also, now you've got a little bit better recovery options just overall, and you can afford to press a bit more when you're especially challenging that shield. Look at how low he dips just to try and edge guard N.
Oh no, the spike! It's like Ed doesn't even care what you do, is willing to go on this edge just to be a threat. And the range fight, the air fight, I think that's what the Dark Pit is going to strive in, and yet N is able to punish it. Just looking to make the difference, armors through it, and forces you in a very uncomfortable spot.
The backer also connecting. He picked up the sword. The throw's not going to work, but there's that down B I was talking about, able to stop him for now. The arc fire's on the ledge, dealing a lot of pressure to him. Dewizar is going to have to find a way out of here. He can't do so. The Nair covering so many options, and already forcing Dewizar to his last stock.
I feel like it's incredibly worse than the fact that they're not even having a chance to use the reflector. Whether they're not being able to predict N's own random playstyle, it's just maybe more of just not being able to take a time to breathe, just continuing having to move forward, and N is benefiting off of it. I mean, just notice how they're using the fire, forcing their opponent to have to use shields, forcing them to not be able to take a second to attack, and then once they get on the edge, they just get back and take control over.
Gonna have to be very careful here. Double electroshock to make it back to stage, but already he's on his last stock. He's at 85%, and he's still got to find a way to take 3 shots, and he will not have it underneath the reflector, and another 3 stock to cap off the night. It's Colorado getting the dub.
I mean, I don't know who runs that team, but I think you take N out to whatever N wants. If N wants IHOP tomorrow, you get N some IHOP. I mean, coming back with the 3 back-to-back 3 stock is not easy, and that takes a lot of determination and just, I think, raw talent to be able to break through. And that's just unfortunate. You know, you can't reflect it when you're dropping down, and unfortunately having no adaptation, not being able to be underneath that Robin due to the reflector, and especially due to your own going up against the recovery, it almost felt like Dark Pit was the answer to break through it, and yet N did not care about any type of matchup.
Performance from N, everything on the line in this last set, and he comes out and double 3 stocks, one of the highest performing players on the Marquette roster. That is a statement win from him. And this Dark Pit, I mean, again, it seemed like it had a lot better of a chance, but N's matchup knowledge and what he does so well, right? He manages those spells, which is a part of the character kit, but then to be able to find these openings and just go all in. It is all chips on the table when you are playing against N. And even there on that last stock, I mean, my jaw dropped.
Yeah.
I thought I saw the reflector come out, and I thought, okay, well, maybe he just pulled off on it, but no, it hits his feet. He sniped the toes, and that's all it took. And all of a sudden, what was a very close match, the double 3 stock turns it into a 7-point victory for the side of Colorado. What a turnaround.
Honestly, I definitely agree. I don't feel, the opponents have anything to feel ashamed of. That was down to the wire, and, adrenaline sometimes gets the better of you, but full props to Colorado, especially from getting that last second comeback. That, again, if N wants IHOP, you go get N IHOP. N wants Pizza Hut, you get N whatever they want, because that was just an above needed performance.
Well played by both of these schools. Marquette, they are the ones who fall to 4-6. They play Hawaii next week. Should be a very entertaining matchup. Again, that Central Conference, very compact with their talent, and it will be fun to watch how they play. For the side of Colorado, they advance to 5-5 on the season. We will get a chance to hear from one of their players after a short intermission. Don't go anywhere. An interview after the break. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the EGF. Unfortunately, we could not get an interview with Colorado, some technical difficulties behind the scenes, but we would like to, congratulate Colorado on their victory this week over Marquette. A very tense matchup between these two, and really a fantastic way to end the day. It has been a wild week here in the EGF, especially across the Smash Brothers scene. As if we take a look at the schedule to kind of recap the day, it was just an awesome action-packed day across the board.
I definitely agree. And even taking a look, I feel each match had their own story. First match kind of ending in that 20-10, so half points, not something you truly have to worry about. And then, as it goes further, it kind of swapped sides, 24-5. George Washington University and Arlington reaching that 5-25 kind of difference. Arlington obviously taking that win, and then this one kind of finishing off on the edge, 13-20. Each one was honestly had their own surprises, and I really can't say which one was my favorite of today. For some reason, the EGFC always gives me a new match to look forward to.
There's always something about the EGF where the minute you think you have it figured out of where a team belongs in the standings and whatnot, all of a sudden it gets flipped on its head. I mean, to me, the match that stuck out was UTA, the newcomers. They have really stepped up in a big way, taking down George Washington. But also, you look at DePaul, the way they were able to bounce back after dropping the first set against Weber State. That was a huge win. The MAC is always entertaining to watch, and even this one, the rivalry, the grudge match, it was a blast to watch. So that about does it for us. Thank you all so much for watching, and again, thank you to really everyone who has helped put this together. Production, House of 3000, who is running both the official EGF and this stream as well. Thank you to Dylan Dev for being able to put this show on. Thank you to Tyler at the EGF, who's allowing us to be on here. And user Itzel, any words to cap off the week?
I would definitely say if you are interested in our personalities, obviously our Twitters are down there, but a lot of love to the side of productions, making sure our information is right, funny, and sometimes drawing on the screen. That's my favorite part of everything we do, but that's pretty much all the love that I want to give.
Thank you all once again so much for watching, and we will see you next week for more SSBU action. Until then, adios.